I was a Chicago police officer for over 20 years with a starting salary of $36,000 a year, a badge, a uniform, and a dream that didn't quite fit inside that salary. So I started investing in real estate, and everything changed. Over 400 properties later, I took everything I learned and built the #1 real estate training platform called Make Real Estate Real. Thousands have taken the course, built real wealth, and changed their lives forever. I'm Jemal King, and on this show, I sit down with some of my successful alumni to show you exactly how they did it. I was already heading to Jackson, Mississippi to speak at the Born to Win conference at Jackson State University. So while Camilla and I were in town, we linked up with Make Real Estate Real alumni Jonathan McLaurin and his wife Kendra, who have been doing some real things out there in the city.
I actually started in sales when I was 19. I was 19, started in sales, and I was just doing regular, just cell phone sales. I loved it. I worked at a local company here called C-Spire, and it's similar to AT&T or Cricket or anywhere else. But I was just doing sales. Worked my way up through the corporate world from the retail side of that business, and at the tail end of my career, I got into like cybersecurity. So I was selling cloud, managed services, voice over IP options to the government. So I would go to a city, and I look at their network, the infrastructure, and determine a solution for them. And I was very successful at it. 6-figure job, stayed there for 10 years. And I don't know what, I kind of got a spark one day. About 5 years in, I had a bad day at work, almost got fired. I was taking over a new market on the sales side, and I almost got fired, man. And I seen everything I had worked for up to that point. I had just bought my first house for myself. Had a younger, my daughter, she was 1 year old at the time, and I almost got fired. And I knew then I had to make a change. And I heard Jemal say this one time. He's like, I was finished, but I wasn't done. And man, I started digging on real estate. I would go to sleep watching YouTube videos and online research and HGTV, and I was always intrigued by it, right? And so I eventually went to that conference in New Orleans that I was telling you. It was a 1% conference. New Orleans is about maybe 2.5 hours from Jackson. And I went to the conference, drove down, and I bought a front row ticket. I wanted to hear this live and in person. And I got everything I needed. I sat through the entire show, got the word me tea.
What's up? Woo! I'm about to have some fun right now, y'all. Let's go. Hey, I'm about to ask y'all a question right now. I'm gonna ask you this question. I want you to really think about it. I want you to really think about what I'm about to ask you. What do you want? Like, what do you want in your life? What do you want your life to look like? Like, what do you want from life? Like, what do you want to live? What type of car you want to drive? Like, what do you want in your bank account? I want y'all to think about that right now. What do you want? You only got one life to live. You only got one chance at this thing called life. I need you to tell me right now, what do you want?
Took pictures of the slideshow, and after the show, a lot of people started rushing the stage. And instead of me rushing the stage, I was like, man, I'm just gonna go home and try to implement, what I just learned today. And so I wanted to get in line, take a picture and talk with Maul at the time, but it was too many people at the time, so I just left. I got my keys, got my laptop, immediately packed up and just went home. And I started working from there. And so I went on. We all go on Facebook Marketplace. I was on Facebook Marketplace one night just scrolling, and I ran across this listing, and then he realized it was strategy time, but it was called owner or seller finance. Ran across this list and I seen the numbers. It was a cheap property. It was like maybe $40,000. The guy wanted $5,000 down, and the monthly note was like a couple $100 a month. And me myself at the time, I was working. I knew I was like, well, at worst case, if I don't finish this property, I can afford to burn a couple $100 a month. And so I end up purchasing the property. And we had a family member of mine. He was doing some light renovation stuff like painting, flooring, and stuff like that. And I bought him in. I funded my very first purchase with I pulled some money from my 401k, strapped together some cash I had, and we went to work in the property. And before I knew it, I was at the closing table. I had my very first investment property, and we was getting ready to rent it out, after the work was completed. I think, man, it progressed pretty fast, and I think we're on the right track. So after my very first deal, I had one property, and my job taught me this, and it always stuck with me. And they told me, we have to treat every store if it was 2 to 3 hours away. And so we took that one property, and what I mean by that is that anytime we had an issue at that property, instead of me or myself going in to try to fix it, I would treat it as if I had several properties, if I had 10 or more. And so my very next deal from that property was a multi-house portfolio. It was 9 units, and I ended up purchasing it the same way, using creative, owner financing or creative strategies to purchase property. And man, I bought those 9 properties, and those 9 properties turned into 10. And I already had the infrastructure to support it because we treated that very first investment as if it was already 10, which is crazy. It's crazy how God worked. And so we went from 1 property to 10, and went from 10 to 12. In present day, we're sitting at over 20 doors. So it's grown a ton. You see the rewards from of course, investing in all these properties. But what you get in return is that I'm able to take, my message. I was just an inner city guy, and I was always considered successful because of my job. But now I'm doing something to where it's not only supporting me and my family, but it's showing other people, coming behind me that, just because you didn't make it pro or you didn't go to the NFL, that doesn't stop you from, taking your family and putting them on the track, the generational wealth. So I think it's been very rewarding.
Quitting my job.
Yes.
My last day. I feel so relieved.
Yes.
Yep. This is my life for the past 10 years.
Yes.
All in one box.
I see Spire.
What led up to me quitting my job, man? I had me and my wife actually came up with a date that I was going to quit, but we were at the my property starts now summit in Chicago, and I got a phone call that one of my close friends had passed. We would talk every weekend for the past 16 years. We would talk every weekend about sports and everything, just about life. And he passed while I was at the summit, and so I was actually there, man. And I remember the night I told Jemal, I said, "Mom, my best friend just died, man, and I'm about to quit my job." And the reason being is because life is too short. And that it was like a turning point for me, like, me and this guy grew up together, and that could have easily been me that passed. And I'm sitting here thinking I got more time and I don't know that nobody knows the expiration date. And so me seeing my friend's life end early, and I'm like, it's now or never, one of those now or never moments. I ended up leaving my job, and that was about almost 4 years ago, and I haven't looked back since.
The moment we landed in Jackson, it was go time. Jonathan and Kendra picked us up from the hotel, took us on a tour of the city, showed us some of their southern hospitality, and brought us straight to one of their investment properties. I'm excited to see everything they've been building out here in Jackson. This your place, sir?
Yep, right on the corner lot.
Oh, nice. This would be a nice retirement house for somebody.
Yep.
A nice one level.
Yep.
And so you usually get like mostly older people, or
It's a mixture. So with our apartments, it's so crazy. A lot of our apartments are only 1 bed, 1 bath. You get an older crowd because most of the kids are already gone. They don't need anything big. But I would say you're mid-aged person, about 40s, 50, somewhere in that range. They tend to move to structures like this, and they usually want to buy it or they're gonna rent it for a long time because they probably see how younger kids that play.
And how long have you owned this property for?
Bought it at the beach about 6 years now, 6, 7 years. This was one of the very first properties I had when I first started buying real estate.
Wow,
So it was part of my initial portfolio. Yep. All right, so what we got here, man, we got a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage on a corner lot, got a large backyard. And I've had this property, like I said, 7 years, and the entire time I think we maybe had 3 tenants. People tend to move in this property, and they become a long-term tenant. They don't like to leave.
What was the ARV when you bought it?
So ARV when I bought it as is was about $50,000.
About $50,000.
Yep.
All right, what you think the ARV right now is?
So we had a recent appraisal. It appraised right at about $170,000.
So how much equity do you think you got in here now?
Probably right around 100K, probably a little bit over. Yep.
100K equity.
Yep.
And
One
the
property.
equity goes towards your what?
Future.
Go to the future you.
Yep.
They go towards your net worth.
Yep.
Yep. No, that's cool.
Yep.
And so you figure that about every year it grows at about how much? You figured
I'd say about maybe 10.
about 10?
Yep, about 10%. Yep, somewhere in that range. Could be more or
If
less.
somebody was getting 10% or $10,000
Yeah.
in their bank account every single year,
Yeah.
that's a good return.
Exactly.
And I don't think people look at real estate like that.
No, they don't.
Like, this is a bank.
Exactly.
Think about it. Every single building, bro. I be
Yep.
looking at it like this is a bank. We driving down the
Exactly.
street. I own this property. I own that property. I
Yeah.
got 100,000 equity in here.
Yeah.
If you have 10 properties, they all got 100,000 equity.
Exactly.
You got $1 million.
Easy. Yep.
I don't think people look at real estate like that.
No, they don't. They don't.
So, yep, show me what you got, dog.
All right,
Let's check
cool,
it
cool.
out. So cool, bro. So man, this is your rental, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. So just lay it out for me. Where we at right now? Well, matter of fact, just walk me through the spot. Let me get a look at it first.
All right, cool. So coming in right off the door, man, you got like a secondary living room area. Some people use it as an office, but it's just basically like a bonus room. But like I say, it's been used as an office before. Some people have an in-house business, and so it's a cool little setup for them.
Okay, so this wouldn't be the main like TV
No,
area, family room?
most people have used like for like work from home.
Okay.
Yep, whole little setup, and you can actually close that door, and it's like a separate part of the house.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Yeah. On an average,
Yeah.
when a tenant leaves and you put a new tenant in there, of course you're gonna paint, you're gonna do the little fixture up and things.
Yeah.
How much do you think that you usually out of on an average to turn it over this house to get it ready for the next tenant?
Yeah. So on the high end, I'd say about 1,500.
About 1,500.
Yeah, it just depends. Like I say,
So you like about 1 month's rent.
Yep, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
No, it's not. And like I say, security deposit from the next tenant usually kind of washes it.
Okay.
But that like I said, about 1,500. If it's nothing crazy,
Yeah.
about $1,500.
Okay. How long does this usually take?
Just turn around. Probably like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it ain't. If it's just like a cosmetic, patching up, painting, cleaning up, I say about 2 weeks. Be
Do
honest
you
with you.
wait to show the property until it's complete, or can you get another person in here? Can you start listing the property, start marketing it while you're in here doing the paint? Then doing those 2 weeks.
Yeah, so in between those 2 weeks, we don't wait. We go ahead and get it listed with the previous photos because it looks the same.
Okay.
And then once we get people in, they already kind of know what it looks like, and then they can see if we made any small changes today. But it's usually the same.
Have you ever had this place like Section 8, any kind of government program?
So I have had Section 8 tenants, and we have received government vouchers, but it's been a mixture. Like I say, it just depends. But it is Section 8 ready, so if we get someone with a voucher, they'll be good to go as soon as they can get their final inspection.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So
Yep.
I first came in here,
Yep.
every single room I'm always looking at, outlets. Section 8 wants you to have an outlet
Yep.
on every single wall
Yep.
in the room.
Yep.
And so no. The
Nope.
thing I like about Section 8, and it's crazy that a lot of people usually don't want to mess with government programs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you can go either way. You can make an argument for either side, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that I love is that Section 8 or a government program, they are there almost as like a middleman to your tenant.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, you have yearly inspections,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so the Section 8, before that tenant can move in here, they've done an inspection here. They know how this property looks.
Exactly.
They took pictures of it.
Yeah.
They came out here. They know. And then so now, when the year's up,
Yeah.
and you got a yearly inspection, if the place look totally messed up,
They gonna let you know.
they gonna let you know, and they know who did it.
Yep. Exactly.
And they have a section in there where it says this is on the owner or this is on the tenant.
Yeah.
And that person could be in jeopardy of losing their Section 8.
Exactly.
And so I noticed that over the years, I've had Section 8 tenants living in my building for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I noticed that some of those units have been kept up. Why? Because we have yearly inspections.
Exactly.
And we have to make sure that we take care of these things.
You have to.
Yeah. So when I hear people telling me that, oh man, my property got messed up.
Yeah.
Section 8 tenant, they've been there for 3 years. I'm like, that don't sound
Nah,
like
that don't sound
It's like, every year you got a yearly inspection.
Because they don't want to risk them losing their voucher.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah. I love it, man. But like I said, we definitely do stagger. If they have one, we definitely not turn them away. And like you said, I prefer that in a lot of places because it's guaranteed money. You know what I'm saying? You can't beat that. You can't get a guaranteed check every month. And wear and tear can be somebody with a voucher or without one. And I think that's
another tip.
Yeah.
For that person that's looking to get started in real estate, this is your first property, right? It is your first or maybe second property. You can't afford to be missing out on rent. So you need to look into the government programs that's being offered, right? Market rate tenants, just regular people, they're great too. But you cannot afford to miss a payment because this is all you have.
Yeah.
Now, when you've been in real estate like Jonathan for the last 7 years or myself for the last 26 years, you have enough units to keep you afloat if anything takes place. But starting out, I'm gonna take this little tip. Starting out, you definitely want to look to make sure that you have a multi-unit building. At least 50% of your tenants are Section 8 or there are some voucher programs, so you can make sure that worst case scenario, you're able to cover the expenses of the project. This single family home right here is a real gem. 7 years of consistent tenants. That's 7 years of consistent income. That's not luck, that's the foundation. And now, Jonathan is ready to show me 2 of his multi-family apartment buildings in downtown Jackson. Man, I had to see this for myself. So let me ask you something. So, growing up, like when I grew up, right, I always talk about, you read my book, I talk about how I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood, right? Where everybody had the same kind of houses, everybody drove the same kind of cars, pretty much everybody's making the same amount of money type deal. Yep. But yet, all I had to do was turn to the north and look up, and I saw skyscrapers. You could see the Sears Tower from anywhere in Chicago just about. Yep. So I always had like a dreaming mentality. Like what did you look to living in Jackson, Mississippi that made you say, man, I want more. I want to go beyond what I see in this community?
Yeah, so in North Jackson, they have like a country club type neighborhood. And so you got your mansions, these are your larger style houses. And so when I was a kid, we used to just go out there. Like during Christmas time, you go out there, you'll see the lights. They have Christmas light shows and things like that. As I got older, I was like, I wonder what it'd take to, to move to a neighborhood similar like this. And now we live in a suburban neighborhood that's very, if it's not better, than what I used to see as a kid. But that was some motivation. You used to see during Christmas time, you see those houses. They got the professional lights up. You see all these people outside, and it's like a more of a, a better environment. And I would see it as a child, and I was like, I want that. What does it take? And you just got to figure it out.
All right, so how did you find the exposure, though, to know that it was possible? What evidence? So for me, I talk about how, I saw my friend's uncle, and he was a real estate investor. And that was the first time I ever heard the word real estate investor, right? I just thought that people own their own houses, or if you was renting, I thought you paid your rent to the mortgage company. I never thought that it was a person that owned that, and that was a business for them. So what was like what did you see growing up that made you say, oh, okay, this is it?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, during the holidays, I would see people walking those areas in the streets running, and they look like me. They look like my family, and they just seemed like normal people. But I knew it was something separating us from where I was living at the time, which it wasn't a terrible place. It's just what they had was better. It was a more modern neighborhood. It was more space. It seemed like the school system was better. They had better stores. I was like, I wonder what it looks like to get to that point. At some point, you start bridging the gap. Like, well, I need to make this amount of money. I need to do this, and so my brain it started jogging. Like, all right, how do I get from where I am now to there?
Yeah. And then, how did you train yourself? That's what I'm saying. Did you just train yourself in it?
No. So, like I said, when I was working corporate, corporate was great, but I knew I had to make more money. Obviously. Yeah. And so I started binge watching real estate.
Okay.
And I would, it starts with HGTV.
Yep.
You do Flip or Flop with Tarek and all that, and then you start wondering like, well, I'm not in California, but we do have houses here that they look very similar to what he walks into at the beginning of the episode. And so I just started binge watching YouTube. I'd go to sleep watching YouTube videos on flipping houses and strategies, and got into Bigger Pockets podcast. And then, I just kind of got tired of waiting. And that's when I stumbled across, Secret to Success. I've been listening for years, but they started implementing the real estate side of everything when you came on the podcast. And you was somebody, you look like me. I was like, I can attest to his story, and his background is very similar to mine. I didn't do police work, but I work corporate. I work blue collar. And I just started tapping in, man. And from what you were taught, what you were saying, I was hearing those terms, but you listening to you implement your systems and how it worked for you, I was like, I gotta tap in. I gotta, do more. Because I mean, if he's doing it and he didn't go pro, he didn't have like an athletic background as far as like going to the NFL and getting millions and millions of dollars. I was like, I can do that.
Yeah, I think that's important, man. I think a lot of people, and I've been around, man, just talking to different people, and everybody got that aha moment. You think about it, and so some people get an aha moment, and it scares them. And they don't do nothing with it. And then you got other people like yourself that got that aha moment, and they go towards the light. Like like I like to say, they go towards the light. You know, they don't have that fear. But yet, one thing is that I like what you said is that you didn't just jump in it.
Yeah.
You educated yourself.
Yeah.
You got exposed to the information, and then you was able to go then apply the information, you know, to do what you're doing today. All right, so you said you have another 8-unit building just like this over here?
Same street. It's actually one lot over. So this one is 8 units. Like I said, we do a split floor plan, four short midterm, and then just 4 regular rentals. And then the other building is just all 1-year leases, 1 to 2 year leases. You know.
Which one did you buy first, or did you buy them at the same time?
We bought them at the same time.
Really?
Yep,
So
yep.
that was part of the portfolio?
No, it was just they just had them on sale at the same time. And,
Same owner?
Yep, same owner.
Okay.
Yep. So,
How long did that owner have it before you?
He had it for years, man. I think he bought it in like 08.
We're gonna take a look. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about, man. Real estate just ain't going nowhere.
No, it's not.
You know what I'm saying? And then after you know, it might be somebody else.
Exactly.
You know, and it's just, that's what real estate is, man. And I'm sure before that owner, it was somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Real estate ain't going nowhere, man.
No, man. It just changes hands, and as long as you know your numbers, you can get it at the right time.
And that's the thing I love about it, that you could pass down real estate.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah.
your job.
Exactly.
You can't pass that down.
Definitely can't pass that down.
Let me tell you something. I was a police officer. My dad was a police officer.
Yeah.
He didn't pass the police department down. As a matter of fact, my dad was a sergeant with the police.
Yeah.
And then when I started, I had to start off all over again as a patrolman.
You don't get to pick up.
Now
where he left
imagine if
off.
I could have picked up where my dad left off at.
Yeah.
Then my son, he take the next level. But no,
Exactly.
everybody got to start over.
Exactly.
But that's what I love about real estate. It's not starting over.
Yeah.
You know, your kids don't have to start over from where they can literally pick up where you left off at.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
what real estate do for you.
Yeah.
So no, man, this is
So we walk
So I
in
see
here,
it's
man.
another. What is this right here?
This is another development. It's a separate company.
Yeah.
But crazy story. The guy that I purchased from, he used to own that as well. Yeah. But he ended up selling it to someone else. But we rolling up on our second 8-unit here, and similar style to the other one, but it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more wide open, I can say. But
Yeah.
we'll see here. Like I said,
Okay.
I like it. Yeah. It's kind of tucked off here in the corner.
I like one thing. I like how you have. I like how you have all the properties in the same area.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and I tell people that's important.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even when your guys are doing the work on these buildings, they were able just to come, you know, they didn't have to go travel across town.
Exactly.
That's real time.
Yep. Exactly.
This your building here?
Yep. This it, man.
Oh,
So.
man, beautiful, man.
Oh yeah. Shout out to
I
my
love
wife on
the curb
design.
appeal. Yeah. Your wife did that?
Yeah, my wife came up with the design on this one, but like I said, it's very similar to it. You got an 8-unit.
See, that's what I tell people, man. Look, here you go. A tip. To all my fellas out here looking to get in real estate, listen, your wives already know how to put everything together, right? They've been doing this ever since they were younger. They knew how to accessorize, right? So look, sometimes you don't have to go paying a interior designer. All you got to do is just talk to your wife. I'm telling you, in-house. The way that Jonathan and Kendra structured these apartment buildings allows them to maximize their earnings with both long-term and short-term corporate tenants. Now that's a smart play that's gonna pay off dividends while keeping the units occupied all at the same time. I like that. Sitting down with Jonathan reminded me exactly why I do this. He took what he learned, went back home, and built something real in a city most people would have overlooked. That's what Make Real Estate Real is supposed to do. Give you the tools to launch your journey. Jonathan didn't need anything else. He just needed the right exposure.